If you just started playing Marvel Snap, you'd have a handful of starter cards, which includes Ironheart, White Tiger, and Odin. And with the addition of Wong, that combo terrorized the leaderboards 3 years ago. And I last played this game 3 years ago. And there's a ton more cards now, and that combo is no longer relevant. And we're gonna dust it off and take this deck into the biggest Marvel Snap tournament ever, Golden Gauntlet, and see how well a new or returning player can fare against the absolute top meta decks possible. The tournament is composed of 869 people, and none of their decks are like mine at all. For example, there's only 4 people in this whole tournament, myself included, that have White Tiger, and the other 3 are completely different than my deck. So it should be interesting to see how this goes. The way the tournament works, in each round, each player is given 10 lives that you can see in the top corners here. Once you lose all 10 lives, it's a loss. Each match by default has 1 of your lives wagered, but you can choose to double down at any point in time to make it so the next round it would cost 2 lives instead. Or you and your opponent can also double down to make it so it costs 4 lives. And each match is composed of 6 rounds, and at the end of the final round, that total doubles again. So if it was 1 life, that's now 2, or if it was 4, it brings it up to a total of 8 lives taken away from the player that loses that match. But you can also choose to retreat at any time to take the amount of lives lost before it doubles. So it adds a really interesting mechanic with bluffing, because you could be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna double down, but you don't have cards that are going to win you the game, but your opponent doesn't know that. And speaking of cards, my full deck list for the event was this. And if you're familiar with Marvel Snap, you'll know that 4 of these cards weren't out 3 years ago. And that's because I've been playing so much of this game the last week and a half to try to get ready for this tournament, and I ended up unlocking a few cards along the way. But they're pretty minor or just bring more consistency to the deck. They don't actually do any core mechanics for me. And the core combo and what I'm hoping to play is Ironheart, Wong, White Tiger, and then Odin in that order. And I had my buddy with a master's in statistics simulate my deck over 1,000,000 times, and there's only about a 10.8% chance of that actually happening, which is not very high, which is why we have Doom and other cards in here to hopefully bring some more consistency. And I'll talk about what all these cards do right now. Ironheart gives power to up to 3 of your other units. Wong makes a zone where all play effects happen twice. White Tiger summons a strong unit somewhere else when played. And Odin makes everything happen all over again, which doubles with Wong, making everything happen 4 times instead, which is the core of the combo. And one of the backups, Doom, adds 2 5-power units to the other 2 locations. And Blink is a really strong backup card that lets me pull a card from my deck in the event I don't draw what I need.
Doom rules all.
And Grandmaster is just a budget Wong that makes something happen one more time. And all my remaining cards are cheap cards to take up the first few turns and to disrupt my opponents, like Yondu getting rid of a card from their deck, or Echo making an ongoing effect not happen, or Kingpin weakening people that move. Those are all very key components for other people's decks, and so it might mess them up every once in a while. So it's nice to have. And when I mention cost or power, each card on the top left, you can see how much it costs to play them, and on the top right, it's how much power that card has. And on the left here, in-game, you can see how much energy I have on each turn, and it's typically just based on what turn it is. If it's turn 6, you have 6 energy, turn 5, you have 5 energy, etc. And you win the game by having the most power in 2 out of the 3 zones when the 6th turn ends. And there's a bunch of different zone effects, and it's randomized each time, so you don't know what you're going to get, and it keeps things interesting. But anyway, now that you know how the game works, let's get into the matches and see if this deck actually works all these years later. Starting with round 1, after getting rid of 3 cards in their deck thanks to Yondu, and them not really playing too much, I was feeling pretty confident. Too confident. And when the final turn came around and they doubled down, I didn't expect too much. But if you look closely, there's a few big issues. Magic made it so it went to round 7, which means they have 1 more energy. Luna Snow's Ice Cube is giving them 1 more energy. Sarah is reducing all the costs of all the cards in their hand, and Onslaught's doubling that. So they have 8 energy, and everything's 2 energy cheaper. And even after the combo started falling in place, I still was not expecting the ending. There's no way that just sniped White Tiger. Isn't it completely random? And yes, it is completely random, but it does not matter that that sniped White Tiger, because the combo's starting to roll. And there's nothing I can do to stop it with Scorn in their hand, because every time Scorn's discard, it comes back, and every single time Gambit discards a card, it destroys a card on my side. And with Odin and Wong there, there's no end to it.
ye worthy? Are ye worthy?
And it would have destroyed even more cards than I had played if I somehow had them on the field, which is pretty crazy, and I was totally not expecting it out of this deck. But when round 2 came around, and they snapped again with a combo that looked eerily similar, I learned my lesson and retreated.
Escape.
After Yondu got rid of their Scorn, I was feeling pretty confident. But Gambit doesn't have to be the centerpiece, and apparently they can also pull it off with Ironheart. And it's crazy that Ironheart was actually in this deck, because just like White Tiger, there was only 5 Ironhearts in this entire tournament out of the 800-something people. And for some reason, first round, I'm up against the other one, and I'll have an 8. No.
Escape.
And after doing some quick math, there's no way I could have won that. It's 5. But next round, I could tell that I had a chance because it was very obvious that he was not drawing what he needed to draw. And what I was talking about earlier and how my deck is pretty consistent once I added the other cards, even if I didn't draw exactly what I needed, which I didn't draw this time, I can still get a decent amount of power on the board, which paid off.
Victory.
He's going to definitely do Wong Gambit, which will get rid of 4 cards. But that win went to my head, and I was totally not expecting next round or thinking about the fact that he still had Wong and Odin in his deck. I was thinking he was going to play Gambit, and that he wasn't going to do a whole ton of damage. And although he didn't do damage, he was able to superpower his units.
Are ye worthy?
Oh, he's going to Wong Odin. And then he gets a bunch of Ironhearts.
Are ye worthy?
I don't like to fight him this way. Probably won't fight him.
Are ye worthy? Are ye worthy?
Yeah, realistically, I don't know how I was thinking I was going to win this.
Are ye worthy?
But don't worry, not every match goes as bad as this. It was just a warm-up, you know, a warm-up.
I am Iron Man.
Until this guy drops 256 power on me. But in all seriousness, this guy's deck was decent, but I had all the tools I needed to beat him, and it was mostly just the zone effect that gave him that power level. And by turn 3 of the next round, I had all the cards I needed for the combo that I needed to pull off. And when the final turn of this round came around, I doubled down and he didn't know what was coming.
Oh, snap.
I am Iron Man. I am Iron Man.
Are ye worthy? Are ye worthy? Victory.
And after that combo striking fear into him, he retreated the next round as well. And even the round after that.
Victory.
And after a few really bad hands, we came to the final round,
Are ye
where I had a smaller
worthy?
version of the combo with Doom instead of White Tiger, but it was still completely viable and was easily able to beat him even though he had Gore, which is a complete counter to my deck
Are ye worthy?
because it gains power based on how many on reveals there are on the field, and literally my entire deck is on reveals.
All.
But it wasn't enough to stop the combo.
Victory.
And for the third game, I was up against a baker, who was cooking in more ways than one. He was literally making bolognese while he was putting the beat down on me, and honestly, I respect it.
Are ye
And a lot of
worthy?
these matches were really close, and I probably had the most fun playing this game out of all the other matches in this tournament. I would get my combo and then he would retreat, or I would purposely give him my bad cards through a zone effect, then draw and get really lucky with my good cards.
Are ye worthy? Doom rules all. Are ye worthy? Doom rules all. Victory.
But he was definitely cooking with this deck.
Doom rules all.
But when it was time for the final round and the zone effect was revealed, I was feeling super confident, because that zone effect makes you not be able to play cards there, but my whole deck is all about playing cards where I can't play them typically. So it was a perfect fit. Until I got to the end of the game, and I still haven't drawn any of the cards that let me do that. And at this point in time, I have 4 cards left in my deck, and I draw 1 when the final turn pops up. 3 of the cards in my deck, White Tiger, Doom, and Blink, would all easily let me be able to win the game, because they would fill up the empty spots and put out way more power than my opponent would be able to. But I also haven't drawn Yondu yet, which means I have a 75% chance, I have a 3 in 4 chance of drawing a card that will win me the game, and a 1/4 chance of me just losing outright.
Are ye worthy?
And so yeah, I just lost outright. But they were fun matches, and they were really close. And in the next match, after making a big brain move to steal their Titania using Grandmaster,
Victory.
in being able to retreat 2 times when I wasn't feeling 100%,
Escape.
I was left with what I thought wasn't going to be the final round, because I was planning to retreat again if he snapped, and I think he must have been trying to think the same thing, because we were both just sitting there, like, waiting for each other to snap, and I was like, oh, well, you know what? I'm just going to do it. And he must have been thinking of doing it at the exact same time, and you can't retreat once you snap, and so we were both just stuck here to see how this turned out. It's gonna be bad, probably.
Are ye worthy?
But it turns out both of us were bluffing, and my bluff was just a little bit better. Oh, okay, I will take it. I will take it.
Victory.
It actually happened again the next game as well.
Oh, snap.
I'm definitely gonna regret that.
Opponent snap.
I knew I was gonna regret it. It's over. He called my bluff.
Doom rules all.
Unless he didn't? It's crazy, what? And I still came out on top, but I didn't come out on top in the end, with Timber pulling a crazy comeback. It's crazy. I would have won without that ally. And the remaining matches were the same back and forth, with me ultimately coming up behind. And also at this point in time, I've been playing this for 6.5 hours, which isn't bad, but I had to wake up at 5 AM for this tournament, so I was pretty worn out. But it was still a fun experience, and GG's to everyone involved. And I did get the answer to my question, if my deck is still viable all these years later. And the answer is yes, because I felt like I was holding my own for the most part throughout this tournament, and there was nobody that I didn't take at least one round on. And after this final match, given all my points and the opponents I was facing and everything, I got placed 310th, which I would say is not bad, and it's way better than I expected after playing this game for the first time in 3 years. So yes, I would say that the starter cards are still definitely viable, and although they didn't win this tournament, they still definitely had a chance.